Good evening, everybody. I'm Shanti. I'm Widad from Kuwait Harmony House. Welcome, everybody, to our lecture, Spiritual Lessons from Camera. And our speaker will be Eric Larson from New York. And the lecture is in English and there will be Arabic translation. Anyone who like the Arabic translation, just press the link of the Zoom. The organizers of the lectures are Harmony House Kuwait and Bahrain Meditation Center. Before we start our lecture, I would like to tell you short CV about our speaker, Eric Larson. He has been teach meditation at the last 35 years in New York. He has traveled a lot around US and Canada and Middle East, especially Dubai, and other parts of the world to give courses, meditation, training. He conduct retreat in New York in Peace Village Retreat Center. He has background technical engineer, and he is the United Nations representative for the Brahma Kumari at the UN in New York. And he has passion photography. And before we start our lecture, I just want to announce that at the end there will be 1 minute meditation, and we would like to have your question. Anyone would like to give a question, just put it in the chat box. Our speaker, Eric Larson, you are welcome to our seminar, and really your lecture title is so attractive, and all of us is excited to hear what the relation between camera and spirituality. And the floor for you. You can start. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you, Wihad. And let's see if I get a few things going here. There we go. Good evening and good afternoon. It's afternoon here in New York. I feel honored to be with all of you. I'm going to speak in English, and I have been told that there is simultaneous translation, and I have been asked to not get so excited when I talk and to be kind of slower. And so I will try to do that. And I had been asked to talk about something, a value or a quality, and I was thinking of one quality, and maybe your mind works a little like mine, and one thought leads to another, and then I realized, oh, that kind of fits into some of the things I like to do, and I have used a camera in the past, and so I always think that there's connections between the outer world and the inner world, and so I believe that's the case today also. And I was curious because wanting to talk about a camera, but I was thinking in my own history, my own life, when was the last time I used a standalone separate use machine called a camera? Now I use my phone camera a lot, but I want you to see, when's the last time you actually just used I'm gonna call it old-fashioned camera? And I brought one. Looks like this, right? I guess I've got a Minolta. Because for me, it's been years. It's been years because it's so easy to keep up with modern technology. And because we're keeping up with modern technology, we're able to chat from Kuwait, Middle East, United States, New York. And that's important and it's wonderful at this time. But when's the last time you used an actual separate camera, not your phone? And I'm wondering how young anybody is in this audience, if you've ever actually had a camera, an old-fashioned camera with film. Okay, I don't know if you can buy film here anymore. I'm sure you can, but it's not the same. The world changes. But anyway, one of the simple things about today is what we do outside is what we do inside. And so we've got a camera. I'll show it again, right? And it's got a case, a body, holds all the parts together. And from that case is this kind of typically round thing that comes out. And you can adjust that, and that's the lens. And the lens, lets light in and helps you take the picture. And when that light comes in a camera, it falls on what we call film. And that film then captures that light, and that makes the image. And then you have to develop that, and then you get these printed pictures on paper. That's kind of the old process. And what I'd like you to do is to consider that your head is that camera case. Okay, it's got a shell and it's got all sorts of wonderful things inside of it. And that you have lenses. How many do you have? Most people have two. You have two eyes. And those are the lenses that lets in light, and it captures the light. And that light comes into you and is recorded. You are making constant pictures in your mind, that your mind is the film. It is how we see the world and what we let inside of ourselves. And so if you want to consider that you are an incredible walking camera, you look at things, you let the energy, the light come into you, comes in through your eyes, through the lenses, and is recorded inside of you. It's recorded in the film of your head, or I'm going to call that the mind. That in your mind, you are capturing all sorts of images. And one of the questions I'd like you to ask for yourself is, what is the purpose of a camera? And why do we want to have a camera? And how can we use a camera? Okay. And if you can think about those, something just popped up. Typically, we use a camera to record things, to capture that moment, that image, or that feeling, or that experience, or that data. Somehow we want to hold on to that moment, experience, feeling for our future. Somehow we're thinking that that's valuable now and that we'll want to have it again. And so we want to share that. We want to remember that. And that's why we have a camera, to take those pictures so that we can feel, share, experience, remember, record, a variety of different reasons. And it's interesting to think that that might be the principle for our life. It's a principle that we might want to think about. What am I recording? What am I keeping? What am I remembering? And what do you create? Because when you start to take pictures, when you start to look at things, you are allowing that image and that experience and that light and that feeling to come into you. And that becomes the basis of your life. That's how you will start to see things, because you are going to be guided by your memories, your focus. And that's how you're going to become. What might explain that and might help you understand is an event. I'm going to call it an accident. And when there's an accident, it's the same thing. It's a one event. And I don't know how well you drive in the Middle East and Kuwait. I'm sure typically like you do here, we do here, and you have accidents. And if you can start to see an accident, two cars coming together, then they kind of crash and they end up in the street and they disrupt the flow. People get upset. It's blocking me. But if you had a choice, would you rather observe an accident or be in an accident? Even though it might be disrupting, you'd probably want not to be in the accident. But anytime that there is something here in the United States, typically, someone will call on their cell phone. They don't call on their camera, but they'll call on their cell phone and emergency, and individuals will show up. And typically, the first ones to show up here are the police. And the police then, start to look at this accident from a police point of view. They start to look at skid marks and write down license numbers and take details. Was it raining and how fast were they going, if they could know? And so they ask all sorts of police questions. And while this is happening, if someone gets hurt, in this example, the police would call other individuals and they show up, and we call them here the paramedics or the medical team. And the police look at the accident in one way, but it's the same event. And these paramedics, these helpers, emergency people carers, they will ask different questions and they will look at it in a different way. And when they start to take care of the people, and they'll call to get the cars out of there. And so then you have this truck, we call it a tow truck, that hauls the cars away. And when the driver of the truck comes in to haul the cars away, he's not asking about the people. He's not going to put a bandage on anybody. He's not going to issue a warrant or a summons or give anybody a ticket like the police. He's going to look at the cars. He's going to try to figure out what type of damage and how much it might cost. And the elements that I'd like you to think about from that is it's the same reality for everyone, the same accident. But because of what we have practiced and what we think about and what we remember and how we start to look at the world, it affects how we experience it. That would be one of the elements I'd like you to think about, that you are creating your world by what you choose to look at and what you make of what you see. And that each of those, the police officer, the paramedic, and the tow truck driver, are in the same situation, but because of what they've practiced, because of how they've trained themselves to see, they have a different experience. And what's fascinating is that there's not a right or a wrong, but there's a choice. And so today, what are you choosing? What is the items that you take a picture of, that you hold on to, that you remember, that you bring back, and you become those choices? Because when we start to look at a camera, we start to look at pictures also. And in that sense, that there's a couple principles, and I find that these are helpful in guiding our inner life also. But some of the elements of a picture, of taking a picture with a camera, is what do you want to choose to take a picture of? What do you want to see? What is your interest? And if you can think of the camera and its purpose, to capture an event, a moment, or a feeling, then you have to ask, what are the feelings and experiences that I like, that are beneficial for me? And that's a personal question, but I will answer it out loud from my perspective, and maybe it will resonate and echo with you, but I like to be happy. If I was given a choice tomorrow morning, would you like to spend the day being happy or sad? I know the answer I would give. I'd choose to be happy. Would I like to have some friends, or would I like to feel alone? I know the answer to that too. Would I like to have someone care about me, or nobody care about me? I know the answer to that. And I know that for me, that those are spiritual qualities. I like to be full of joy. I like to be in an atmosphere of care, concern, cooperation, love. I like to have things that I can deal with and manage. I like it when it's orderly. I like it when people aren't shooting at me. I like it when it's peaceful. And so the subject of our pictures using our camera, what do you want to see? How can you start to look for those images in the world that have those qualities? And that's a basis. And then if we start to practice that, if we start to think about that, we will find that. For example, in New York here, we've had some retreats, and up in the mountains. I'll show you a couple pictures a little later, soon. And in those pictures, it's very nice. But one of the retreats that we have is the great outdoors. We send them outside, and everybody loves it. You know, living in the city, no space, small apartments, lots of people, and then they get outside, and it's like, oh, look, sky. But in the afternoon, when it's kind of, give people a chance to relax a little, we give them homework. We give them a treasure hunt. And the treasure hunt usually just has a couple questions. Keep them busy, hour and a half, walk around, but maybe 10 questions. But for example, those questions are, look in nature for a scene of peace. Look, outside and see if you can find nature's sense of humor. Look and see if you can discover a moment of cooperation. And there will be a few questions like that, about 10 of them. And what's amazing and wonderful is that everybody comes back with an answer. And why I mention that is because there's a principle, and the camera is allowing us to, illustrate that whatever you are looking for as a subject, you will find. If you look for happiness and joy and peace and focus in on that, that's what you'll find. If you keep in your mind and have the habit and keep practicing looking for sadness, anger, hatred, fear, you will be successful. That's what you will find. That's what you will record. That's what you'll remember. That's what will guide you. And that's what your life will be like. I find that incredibly powerful, not to be negative and choose those things, but to be the artistic director of my life. What do I want to see and think about? Because the subject is very important. And along with that, there's something called composition when you take a picture. What's in the frame? And another way to ask that, the subject is, what do you want to see? But composition, what's the story you want to tell? If you start seeing that you're a walking camera and you're going through life recording things, what's the story that you want to tell? How do you arrange that? What do you want to focus in on? And so, do you want to tell a story of, again, spiritual qualities, joy, happiness, love? Is that the pictures that you take so that when you remember them, that energy comes back? It's a fascinating way for me to think about my day. I'm just not going through a day, but I am setting down a way of looking and recording that is going to be remembered and nurturing and a basis of my life. It sounds like maybe it's a great responsibility, but it's actually not. It's very simple. And a third element of a picture is the light. And a nice way to interpret the light, I've got a light right here, different ways. There's this one feeling, is a feeling. Okay, gonna mess that up, sorry. But what kind of an energy? Sometimes in the evening it's a blue light and it's cool. And sometimes during the day when it's a red light with the sun, it's hot. And so you can get a different feel. And so when you take a picture with your eyes, with your camera here, what is the feeling that you're creating with that picture? So what are you looking at? What is the story about that? And what is the feeling that comes from that? And in that sense, I want you to start to evaluate some of those questions. What's important in your life? What are the experiences, thoughts, pictures, feelings that you are making, that you are creating now, that will be beneficial for you when you remember them? I know that there was a time when I would sit with my grandmother, parents, and they would have these photo albums where they took pictures and they put them in a book, and we would look at them and they would explain, oh, this is your aunt, or this is when we were here or there. And it made them feel alive when I remembered those, when I saw those, when I heard the story about them. And that's happening inside of us all the time too. We're taking pictures, we're making a photo album in our brain, in that processor, in our mind, and we're able to reach back and look at those and have that feeling. And if we get good in that process, to me, that's what my meditation is. Having a thought, creating a feeling, and moving into that feeling and just kind of lingering with that. And camera, pictures, thinking, remembering are the whole process of empowering and giving myself a feeling, an energy, a perspective, a life, the way I want it to be. It is not something that I have to worry about. It's something I can just start to choose, because the police, the paramedic, and the tow truck driver, they didn't ignore anything, but they just made a choice and focused in on something. And I find that's very powerful for myself. I don't have to worry about everything, but I can choose what I want to look at, what I want to feel, how I want that all to be. And so in that process, you have many different roles. You are an artistic director, you are a creator, you are an editor, you are the one who is involved in your life. And I want to show a few pictures and talk a little about these things, if that's okay. So I'm going to share a screen and just kind of evaluate and give you an example of that. I guess talking about a camera and not having pictures doesn't make sense. So I'm going to see if I can do this. share a screen and hope that you can see what I'm going to call a pond with a white bridge. And maybe you can notice also, there's two chairs there. And it's one way of looking at a scene. These aren't the best pictures, let's say, but I want you just to kind of get a feel for that. There's a lot of green. This is up in our retreat center in New York, but it's got a nice little place to reflect on. And so the bridge tends to be the center of attention. That's the center, and it's relaxing. But now that was one choice, one way of looking at the world. But here's another picture. A couple seconds later, and there's a choice of focusing on a different element of that same scene. And in this picture, from my perspective, you see more of the texture of the water. You see the pillars of the bridge, but you don't know it's a bridge. It seems to have a little mystery to it. It seems to be a little confusing. Now that you saw the first one, I can go back. Simple, sweet, it's a picture. It creates a feeling. You made a choice. But this one, there's a different feel to it. Not necessarily better, not necessarily worse, but it is different. But just like those accident responders, we're looking at certain things because we want to. And when we look at certain things and we have a certain feeling, we're creating an experience. And that's what I call meditation. What am I thinking about? What is the feeling that's there? Let me adjust it so that I can start to experience the qualities and take from the world what I want. This is another picture. If you come and visit, I hope we travel again, who knows? But if you come and visit New York and go to the retreat center, Peace Village, this is kind of in the backyard into the woods. It's a large property on a mountain, and this is the wooded area. And you can get a certain feeling from this. And there's a certain editorial mind at work. There's the picture. And for me, I'm seeing the center, I'm seeing a path, I'm seeing the trees being tall, taking my mind up, I'm seeing the yellow color. It's very uplifting. It's very inspiring, and it's very broad in its nature. And it can be different. Same world, different focus, different choice. All of a sudden, the yellow is gone, the height is gone. This is more of a grounded picture. What am I looking at? I have to be careful of my steps. There's all sorts of rocks on my path. And it illustrates to me that I need to be grounded. I need to not be so caught up in things, but at the same time, I will miss so much if I'm only looking out at a limited point of view. And that's to illustrate how we can change our perspective. Sometimes I need to be down to earth, get up, go to work, and have these necessary behaviors, kind of the ground below me. But there are also times when I find that when my mind can soar, it's beneficial. And to know that I can change what I focus in on, where I direct my mental camera, and I will experience something else. And so I have a choice. And so what do I want to choose? How do I want to be? I want to be happy. I want to be loved. I want to be at peace. So I practice those. Here's a little critter. Maybe you'll see this individual if you come, but if you haven't seen it, and I don't think there are many in Kuwait, but it's a beaver. And I want you to check your feeling when you saw that. Did you go, oh, isn't that cute? I've never seen a beaver before. Look at that. It's having a little snack. Sweet. Maybe. Could be. He's got a little tail here. I don't know if you can see the cursor. But he's the center there. And get a feeling of that. And now here's the beaver close up. Very intent. You can almost see his little hands right there. How he's chewing on that. You kind of have the feeling that that's how you've eaten celery or something before. And you can see right into his eye. And those are two pictures, two feelings, but there's another story. That this is what a beaver does also. These are the trees on the property, and it's cut them down, dropped them into that pond. They're quite interesting. So these were all at the same place at the same time, just about, not identical time. But what we focus in on will affect how we see that. So it's a sweet little beaver, it's a busy little beaver, but it's a destructive little beaver. So your point of view will also have an effect, and how you remember that picture and that being and its work. Here's another picture to illustrate we can come in very close to something and we don't see its background at all. All the qualities of that flower are right in front of us. And sometimes that's important for us in our meditation, to have that awareness, to bring in a picture that will allow me to have a clear focus. One of the elements of using your camera is what's the story that you want to tell and how can you make it easy? The story here is just color, texture, one solitary flower. There's not much else to get in the way. But if you're patient and you kind of look, you can change the story from just a plain flower. And I don't know if you can see it so well, but all of a sudden the subject, the story changes. And now it's the bee. And when we start to think about who we are, how we want to be, then we can start to use the power of our camera, our mind, our focus, our eyes, and choose the things that tell me the story that I want to reinforce and be able to remember. I'm able to do that. I have that quality. And here's another just simple picture. And this is an apple on a tree, but not a complicated story. Story's an apple. But I want you to check yourself now for this example on how do you feel? What is the quality that is being communicated? It's very still. It's very solitary. But that beaded water on there, that tells you something. And it gives you a chance to think about it. And why I find this useful is that when we choose a subject and we just rest our attention on it, the details start to come out. The feeling starts to come out. Okay? It could be very hot. It could have been sprayed, but I'm seeing a cool morning where maybe it has just become very fresh. It's very green. And so that's probably a juicy apple. Might not be ripe. It's got some red to it. But the more we focus and concentrate, the more we have clarity in our pictures. We use that camera to hold that image. The more the details start to come out, the more they start to respond. And I find that's the practice of my meditation. Let me hold a picture. Let me move into that awareness. Let me just be quiet and calm and let that image, that thought emerge inside of me. And as it emerges through that picture, through that image, through that recording, those feelings come out. And so a simple picture of a wet drop apple can bring us that sense of peace, stability, freshness, joy. There's abundance of nature, that green, that open. Lots of ways that we can start to remember the pictures that we take. A few more. Totally different perspective. There's lots of nature up in the woods there, but a couple different elements on how we can lead our lives from this picture. That's a frog, and that's in the pond. And it would be kind of late spring when they come out and make all sorts of sounds. And there were lots of them this year, or that year. But it's another couple elements in this picture is kind of the key is the head, isn't it? That eyeball draws you right in. And so you've got some other things in here that are out of focus. And you have the ability, and we have the ability, to focus in on the things that we want to see. And the other things, even though they're there, don't make an impact. And that's a huge skill. And I'm sure all of you have that and have practiced that. Focusing in on what it is that you want to experience or see or need to deal with, and let other things go by. Even though they're there, it's not that you're denying them, they're just not in your focus. And so if you see that you have this camera and that you've got film that's recording, it's easier to focus in on this picture of the eye of the frog and ignore everything else, because that's where you want your attention to go. So if you want your attention to go on a feeling or an experience, let me focus in on being cooperative. Let me focus in on being charming. I don't know. Those would be qualities that you can not ignore, not deny other aspects of yourself or others, but you just aren't going to give them energy, life, because that's not what you are wanting to create. Cute little frog. Let's see what's next. This is a picture. Was out in the New York City area on a very hazy day, very cloudy, very smoggy. And that's a picture of the Queensboro Bridge going from one borough, Queens, into Manhattan. And those are some of the tall buildings in Manhattan on a very cloudy, smoggy day. I think this is the Empire State Building right there, if you can see that. But we have a choice to see kind of the smoke and what is there, what clouds things, makes the green stand out. But from the same perspective in the same spot, this is the same picture. In the Bronx, looking out over an island into Manhattan. And one of the things that I want you to understand about your ability as a camera is that you can get close to something and you can get far from something. And that you can move into the things that need your attention. And you can also pull away from things that aren't yours. You don't have to spend a lot of time on that. They're not your subjects to put your energy into. We can withdraw our attention. We can move it where it needs to go for ourselves, because we're deciding. We're making that picture, we're creating that feeling, and that we want to give it the focus that we want to. We can move into a subject if we need to, and we can move away from it if it doesn't bother us. I learned something in Manhattan one time. I used to take the train and commute. And there was this young couple, and he was kind of a tough guy, very young, probably high school, maybe trying to impress her or something. But We got off the train and up the escalator, and then it's kind of used to be anyway, a big mass of people going off from the train station to the office. And people are going in all different directions. And this couple was behind me. And it was hard to pass, crowded streets at rush hour in New York at that time. And, you get bumped. You're just kind of walking by people. And somebody bumped into this young man. And he kind of started to express his feelings. They shouldn't do that. It's like, and his wise young girlfriend said, come on, you can't pick a fight in New York with everybody who bumps into you. Because it happens. You're just kind of squeezing through the crowd sometimes. And it's very good advice that if you start to make a big deal out of everything, your energy is going to get used up and you're not going to probably do what you want to do. Because there's going to always be a reason to cause a fight, cause a problem, find something negative. If you look closely, you'll see problems, limitations, negativities, weaknesses. If you move back, you get a different feeling. And so it's important to know when we should enter into a situation and when we should kind of move away. It's not ours. That's not the feeling I want. That's not what I have to do. And story. There was a time we were invited to a program, and this is fairly new, Pope Benedict at that time. And this picture tells one story. He's giving a speech or a talk, and someone in the background is very happy, but could be anywhere. And so that's one story that the picture tells. Feeling is one thing, subject is the Pope, but same place, different focus. We can change our world. We can change what we're communicating. We can change how we feel. Because this is the Pope giving a talk at the basement, lowest level of the World Trade Center after it had collapsed. There was a meeting there, interreligious meeting. And if you can see, he's not the focus anymore at all. To me, these are pictures of people who perished. That was the column number, if you can see my cursor. These are the unions that helped come in and salvage the building. We were at a meeting and he was speaking, and now he's dwarfed by the vastness of that space. And if you can see these bolts, these are huge bolts that are connected to a wall holding it up so that the river doesn't come in. Same place, different perspective, different story. We can choose. We can create a story, we can create a feeling, and we can create the subjects that we want. We are always able and responsible for how we want to perceive, what we want to take, what we want to record, and what we choose to remember. Just trying to illustrate on an external level the internal possibilities and potentials that we have. It's important to choose well, in my opinion. And this picture tells a different story than this picture. Same place. But now, here's that column. It's kind of lost. And the Pope, at that time, you can't even tell where he's at. He might be coming down. But all of a sudden, it's a different story. Totally meaningful in a different way. And again, these are the bolts on the wall. We started out with a little picture here, we expanded it here, and now we've got this whole arena. Evidently, this was before the masks and the social distancing. That's how we used to live, huh? But it's a different story. And so important. What's the story you want to capture? What's the story you want to tell? What's the story you want to feel? What is the experience that you want to remember? Not that it's from these external pictures, but what are the pictures that you keep inside that you reflect on and remember? And you can check that out. Do you have a lot of photo albums inside your head that have pictures of sorrow and hatred and anger and upset and disappointment? And do you visit those often? Do you make them stronger? Is that the world that you're living in? Or are you making photo albums where you can think of something and it brings joy, and you can fill yourself with that joy at any time, and then you can see where joy is and it perpetuates itself? You are powerful to create what you want. And obviously this is a different story. Busy energy, everybody's in motion. Same quality. What's happening? Surrounded. And a final picture for this, I just kind of grabbed a few, but this is very clear, very simple, very focused. And I chose this one as something to think about, because if my climatology is good, my meteorology is understood, you don't have this type of a picture in Kuwait much. But one winter here in New York, we got snow, and this was a bench. And there is so much snow that it covered the seat. And I'm sure you have benches in the Middle East. And so if you can imagine that amount of snow coming up onto the seat, because all you're seeing is the back of a bench. And it can be a powerful image, very simple, but it brings in, for me, a feeling, a temperature, an understanding of the seasons. And so all of these pictures are there for us to remember what it is that we have seen. Would like to do a little reflection now on what we've talked about. And then I think there's going to be open for questions and answers. In that sense that you are a camera, and that you have choice, and that there are elements to you. Your eyes, they can see close, they can see far. You've got brain, you've got mind, you've got film, and you're recording. You are recording everything that you choose to look at. And when you start to recognize that, then the question is, what do I want in my photo albums? What is the experience that I want? How do I want to be and feel, and how do I create that? And we have to make that choice. And so if we can practice that choice, then we'll have maybe some comments or questions or however you'd like to do. But I'd like you to just see if you can follow along with this. So part of me before you take a picture is to take a deep breath and exhale, and see if that works to calm, center, stabilize you. Bring yourself to the present moment. And in this present moment, I want you to open your eyes and see what's in front of you. And you don't have to look at me. Maybe there's a red dot on your iPad or phone or computer. Maybe you're just listening. But take a point and choose to look at that. And see if you can stabilize your attention on one thing. And if you start to focus in on that one thing, then pull back your attention. You can see, for me, that red dot, but I can also see everything around it. I'm aware of everything, but I'm choosing to look at one thing. And I allow that light to come in through my lens, my eyes, and it is making an impact inside of me. And I'm choosing now to put on that kind of filter of peace. And if I start to look through the lens of peace, I'm going to see calm around me. Might not be evident at this instant, but be patient. Something will show you calm, peace, relax. And that picture, that memory is being recorded. Just as you've recorded other memories. And we'll focus in on that experience now. What's it like to have looked at a picture that brings me peace? Let me feel that peace. Let me remember the experience that I've collected in my mental photo album. I choose to be calm, quiet, peaceful. I have that power. I have that choice. I have that responsibility. I am a camera with legs. I am recording images for my future. I will remember them. I will re-experience them. And now is the time to focus on what I want to record and how I want to feel. I hope you feel well. I hope you feel peaceful. May you always have film in your life. May you take great pictures. I believe there might be some questions, comments, anything. We'll turn it over now to Widad and see if there is something from all of you to share at this time.
Thank you very much, Eric Larson. It was very, very beautiful meditation, very, very beautiful lecture. I like that we are a camera with a leg. Very beautiful. We are waiting for the question. Till now, nobody had a question.
Okay.
From Arabic Zoom, any question, please?
Wadad, there is a question. Can you just read? There is a question in the chat.
Okay.
I see a question.
How
Maybe
to
there
bring
are
back,
more.
yeah. How to bring back?
Yeah. How can we delete old records from our camera and how to bring back the old happiness again true?
Yes.
It would be nice, wouldn't it, to have a delete button, you know, something like this, to get rid of images that we've put inside our head. I have not found that. And punching my nose or pulling my ear doesn't seem to be the same as clicking on a computer and emptying the trash. So it's not quite the same. But what I have found for me that works is diluting other pictures. And if you can imagine, I have a little beverage here. It's actually some water. that whatever is in there, if I keep adding more, it will totally change. I will have diluted that. I will have gotten rid of that essence that's there at the beginning. And I find that I can't delete anything, but I can add other things that I want and visit those more. And that gives that experience of thinking of something else, makes it more powerful than the old pictures. I've taken a lot of pictures, and unfortunately, or fortunately, with a digital camera, you can take a lot. And if you've taken pictures, then what to do with them and where did you put them? And then a year later, 2 years later, where did they go? Can I find them? Did I organize them? Those are some issues that many of you might have had. And the same is true in our minds, that if we have a profound picture that we want to delete, sometimes diluting it and bringing in all sorts of other good pictures, good experiences, good memories, and visiting those and looking at those will make it harder for that other one to come in. And if we can start to also not worry about deleting it, but changing our feelings about it, that's another aspect which I find is possible. Let me change how I look at that, because everybody has done their best and might not have always been what we wanted. But if we can accept that and let go of how we felt at that time and change the feelings about that, then maybe that picture will have a different meaning for us. Two different ways to look at trying to delete our past. It's not going anywhere, but we can weaken its power, change the feelings, and create other things that we visit more. And pretty soon we don't visit that and it's not the same. Maybe that would work for you too.
Yeah. Thank you. One more question. How are we programmed to take bad or wrong pictures?
Yes. How are we programmed to take bad or wrong pictures? Lots of different ways to respond to that, but maybe one way is that that's what we've learned, that we need to focus in on those things. And so you've got a skill and you have the ability to focus. And now marry that, combine that with the understanding of what you want to focus in on. I know some very, very powerful people who have great focus, but they do exactly what this question was about. They look at what's wrong, they look at what's bad, they look at what should have been, they look at, but they're very focused and have a great ability to choose, but they're just choosing the things that aren't going to be helpful for them. And so, unfortunately, we have to practice. We have to have the habit of saying, today, I would like to start to look for something that is, and you choose, cooperation, peace, happy, loving, sweet, and make a list. And if you plan your day to look for those things and you start to put your attention to it, you will get better. And as a matter of fact, our concentration, the meditation process, which is basically a thinking, is if you start your day with that, I want to have the experience, I want to remember something, I'll use peace, you use inequality. I want to be peaceful, let me see myself, and let me focus in on that. Starting your day that way gives you a great opportunity to have success. If you don't practice, if you don't focus, if you don't choose, your habits, your practiced way of doing things will dominate. So it is also a strength, it's a power. And when we strengthen our choosing of our camera, then we will get powerful and strong with that. And so when you can start to recognize that when you lift weights, physical, you get stronger, and that strength goes with you. And so when you practice being peaceful, you will get better at that, you will get stronger at that, and that strength will go with you. So just have to choose, just have to practice, and it automatically gets better. You stop, no change.
Very beautiful. And one more question: how to keep feeling peaceful all the time? And is it possible to be calm and in control 80% of our awakened time?
Yeah, I'm going to say 80% for sure, even more. And I hope you don't misunderstand this example. But how would you feel stomach-wise full? How would you keep yourself full all the time in your stomach? Very simple, isn't it? You just keep eating. Okay? When you stop eating, then it will become empty. And so if you want to be peaceful, you just kind of keep having a peaceful thought, having a peaceful vision, having a peaceful way of looking at things. Look for that. I want you all, this is almost like an order, to go on a treasure hunt. Put down 5 qualities that you want in your life. And then it's the evening there, then tomorrow, look for those and see where you can find it and write that down. I guarantee that if you try, you will be successful. You have the ability to find joy in any situation. You have the ability to find love, however it's going to be manifested, however it might show itself. But if you look for something and if you keep that in your mind, you will see it, you will experience it. And so we keep ourselves full by keeping our mind full. When you're mindful, your mind is full. What do you want to fill your stomach with? Eat it. What do you want to fill yourself with? Choose it.
Amazing. And one more question: how to control the sudden anger, Typhon, when it overwhelms us?
Yeah. I wish I could snap my fingers and cast a spell, and that would not happen. It's not working so well these days. So that doesn't work for me. But to understand anger gives one a little more ability or control or influence over that. Because anger usually comes when we have an expectation. And something about self or the others or the world isn't matching that. And so one of the things that I've learned about anger is you have practiced it. Most people have practiced very quickly seeing something and thinking about it and choosing to be disappointed. And so if we can change our thought process, we can have a better influence over that. And one of the questions to ask is, the person didn't respond the way I wanted them to, the world didn't, conform to how I wanted. Is that your responsibility? Is that your choice? Are you the creator of the universe? Are you the one who is responsible for that? Are you the one who dictates it? And for me, the answer is no. And so therefore, I don't have a right to expect people to behave in a certain way, the world to be in a certain way. But I can start to recognize that, let me experience the world as it presents itself and respond with my qualities in the situations that I'm given and try to influence as I can. But if I can't, then not to spend any energy being upset about that. A huge lesson for all of us. What can I influence and where should I put my energy? Because if you put a lot of your energy getting upset expressing your disappointments doesn't really help anybody. And so we need to, again, practice seeing things for what they are, recognizing that I don't really have the right to control the world and people. I can barely control myself. And so be accepting, have some self-respect, have this understanding that we're doing our best, we're in situations that we might not like, but how can I still see, choose, remember, create the experiences that I want? Good luck.
Mhm. And one more question. Someone is asking, who is taking the photo? As with a physical camera, I am taking the photo. I think this is a comment.
Okay, there's a photo I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Okay. Who took that photo? Okay.
Asking who is taking the photo? As with a physical camera, I am taking the photo. I think it is not a question, it's just a comment.
Okay.
Comment.
Yeah,
comment.
but we are taking the photos. We
Yeah.
are the ones who are choosing. You know, we're the camera, we're the artistic director, we're the producer. Everything about what we see and what we record and what we remember and what we choose is us. And that, I hope you will hear, is empowering. What a great chance for me to choose how I want to share my life, create my life. You're making a movie inside of your head. What is it? Is it a horror film? Is it a romantic comedy? Is it explanation of something? There's all sorts of different ways we can experience it. So choose, get involved, make that. And I choose to have my internal life be happy, be joyful, be peaceful.
Nice. And also one send interesting simile between a human being and camera, a new perspective on what the meaningful picture is all about. The world focus has assumed a purposeful meaning.
Okay, was that a question?
And this one, no, I think it's a comment also.
Okay, yeah, the word focus has assumed a purposeful meaning.
There is no more question.
Yeah,
Any
yeah.
more question?
And it's good to chat with yourself. Okay,
Yeah.
what am I looking at? What am I experiencing? What is the feeling?
Yeah.
And is this something that I want to increase and nurture and hold on to or not? And make a choice. Be the director. Cut. Let's focus somewhere else. Finish this scene. I don't want that to enter into me, because the world is the same for everybody, but the world is different for everybody. What do you want to make of it? You're not denying it. You're just choosing something.
Okay. There is a comment. Eric, you are amazing. Thank you very much for this beautiful lecture. And we would like to meet you forward. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, it's been my pleasure to be with you. I'm not sure if I've met many or not. I'm assuming not too many. So this is a lovely opportunity for me to spend some time with all of you. And I hope that things are well for you and your families. And that if there was something that you found interesting or useful, I truly hope that you will use it. See yourself as this camera. Have fun with that.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, and thank everyone for joining, and thanks Sister Awatif for translation by to Arabic group. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.